What's up, awesome YouTubers? Ryan1988 or Justin back here to do a video for you all. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I'm continuing on with some October videos for you all. And I think the rest of the month, I'm going to just be reviewing and recommending some of my favorite horror movies. Now, these are movies that you probably have seen, or maybe you haven't seen. These could be movies that have been around for decades, but I just want to talk about them because I love these movies so much. And so every review you're going to see, they're probably going to be either lesser known titles or popular titles. These are just movies that I love. And maybe you haven't seen them. Maybe you've only seen them once and say you didn't like them the first time. Go back and revisit the movies. I highly recommend it. But what it comes down to is just my passion for these movies and why I love them and why I love to watch them around this time of the year. So, in this video, we're actually going to be doing a kind of double review and kind of look back on these two movies here. And there's three movies in this kind of franchise, if you want to call it a franchise. I do own the third one, but I won't be talking about that one too much. I'll show it off at the end to kind of give you my opinion. But Blair Witch, The Blair Witch Project, and Book of Shadows, Blair Witch Project 2. So these are going to be the two I'm going to be talking about. These are the ones I love, and I just watched these a couple nights ago, and man, I still love them. Still hold up so well, in my opinion. And so let's talk about Blair Witch Project from 1999. So, my first memories watching this movie was renting the VHS tape at Blockbuster back in 99. And I remember the promotion that this movie was getting. I remember the clever, way they, again, were promoting the movie. They had the website where, they were, showing the missing three young adults, Heather, Josh, and Mike, and really kind of amping this up as something that was supposedly real. And I loved the marketing for it. I loved how they promoted this movie. It was great. And I loved how they kept the three actors away from the media, I think for like 2 years maybe. And, they really didn't want people to know, or see them a lot in the media or in interviews or whatnot. Because they wanted this to be believable for people. And, as a kid watching this, I was, 11 years old when this came out. I thought it was real. I was one of those that, at 11 years old, thinking that this was real. Obviously, it's not now, but as a 11-year-old, as a kid, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, wow, like this is crazy. And those are my first memories. Was renting the VHS tape at Blockbuster and renting it over and over and over again. And I've always loved this movie. I've always cherished this movie for 24 years now. Can't believe we're going on 25 years next year. But yeah, this movie is really special to me. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of my favorite scary movies of all time. I think the movie is just so eerie. And I love reading up and listening to the backstory about the making of this movie, how, the director, gave, these actors, food, very little food, and whatnot, and and cameras, and they went out and they were filming themselves throughout these woods, and it took days of making, and pretty much what you were seeing on screen is what they were going through during the making of this movie. So it's pretty cool when you read up on some of it. I don't know how true some of it is, but I'm pretty sure a lot of it is true, where again, they were just given these cameras to go out and film in the woods. And as the days went on and on and on, they were giving a little bit of food, and and whatnot, just to make this real. Again, don't know how true that is, but that's stuff that I have read online, and I just find it interesting. Um, and I just, again, I absolutely love it. It was at the time one of the rare and first found footage movies that we had. It was also during the time of the VHS day, so when you were watching this movie, and they were recording it, it was all VHS. And, VHS is definitely not around anymore. And the found footage movies we have today aren't, the VHS quality. But this was one of those. And, I miss those days. I grew up with VHS tapes and I watched them a lot. And, it's very nostalgic for me. So I absolutely love that. Again, love the eeriness about it. I love the atmosphere. I love the direction. I love the idea. Again, it was one of the first rare found footage movies out there. Now we have a lot more. I think the performances are great. I think they're very believable, and I like that they took these unknown actors and threw them into this project. And the fact that their characters' names are their real life names was really neat. So yeah, Blair Witch Project for me will always remain one of my favorites. And over time, I've heard people say that they don't like this movie, that they don't care for it. Some people, hate the movie. I think as time goes on, we just get new horror movie fans out there, and there's, we all have our different opinions on films, and which is totally fine. But growing up, this was a movie that I just loved so much, and I still love it today. And, I will always remember the first time I saw this movie, and always have the memories kind of throughout the years watching this with friends or watching it by myself and having those certain memories of revisiting this film. And it doesn't get old for me. Revisiting it, a couple days ago, it was just awesome. And I can watch this movie maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and I never get old of it. I never get tired of it. It always will remain one of my favorites. So The Blair Witch Project from 1999, that is without a doubt one of my favorite movies. And then criminally underrated and underappreciated, we have Book of Shadows, Blair Witch Project 2, or Blair Witch 2, from 2000. And this is the Spain Blu-ray. Sorry, there is a out-of-print box set now with 1 and 2. Very cool box set. I don't have that anymore, but that was neat. But when I found that, somebody overseas, again, Spain, released the Blair Witch 2 by itself, I just grabbed this and traded that one in and gave it to a friend, that box set, because I love this artwork. I absolutely love it. And Blair Witch 2 came out a year after the first one. And, the first time I saw this movie, I will admit, I wouldn't say I hated the movie, but as a young kid who had watched the first movie, who had loved the first movie, when I watched this one for the first time, I didn't know what to think about it. It was definitely different. It was definitely weird and bizarre, and not the first one. It's not found footage at all. What this one does is it's a film about the phenomena, the popularity of the Blair Witch Project and the fan base that original movie built. And so you're seeing the perspective of the fans in this and their reaction to the Blair Witch Project. It's also a film within a film, because the first movie is a film in this movie. And so, again, you're getting the fan base, reaction of that first movie. And it surrounds 5 main characters who go into the actual woods that the legend is behind, or that the film is based on. And they bring back something evil with them when they leave the woods. And they're all affected by the real life witch, or Blair Witch, in this movie. Um, when the movie came out, it did not, I don't know box office wise how it did, but critical wise and fan base wise, it was very negative and people didn't like it. And I still hear people say they don't like it today. But as the movie goes on, this is a film that gets more of an appreciation and more love. And I'm happy with that, because after my first initial watch, when I went back a few years ago and watched it on VHS, I loved it. And I loved it for how different it was. And I love the fact that the movie wasn't trying to be that first movie. They weren't going in the route of a found footage movie. They were doing their own thing. And in some ways, while I still think the first one is my favorite, this is a very close second favorite one. And there are things about this movie that I like better than the Blair Witch Project. I think as far as scares go, I think this is probably the scariest one. Is it terrifying? No. But I think there are moments in this movie that certainly still creep me out today. It could be atmosphere, it could be imagery. I think the performances are great all around. And as the movie is a film that I rewatch over and over, I appreciate the performances even more and more every time I watch it. The only downfall with this is we don't get to see the director's cut of the film, because the director, who had prior to this made really good documentaries, and I think he directed maybe a couple movies after this, but he's mostly a documentary director. Had a lot of critical acclaim with his documentaries, and when he was making Blair Witch 2, he went into this movie wanting to do something that he loved. And in the end, the studio interfered with his original film, reshot some stuff, told him he had to reshoot some stuff, and, added some, stuff that he wasn't a fan of. And so I don't think we're ever going to see the director's cut of this movie, because I know the director himself is not a fan of this theatrical cut and has said that over the years. And I would love to see what his original vision would have been like. And maybe one day we'll get it. I was kind of hoping that, Scream Factory, Shout Factory, or one of these companies would release not only the theatrical cut, but the director's cut of the Blair Witch 2 and put this out. This is the only way. Again, there's two Blu-rays that I know of. There's the Blu-ray in that double box set that's shaped like a VHS tape, and then there's this Blu-ray. And these are the only two Blu-rays that we have, and they've yet to release a US Blu-ray of Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. And until then, this is like the perfect edition for me, because it looks and sounds great, and there's actually some bonus features on it. Region free, so if you want to get it, I'd recommend picking it up. Get it before it goes out of print, because I don't know if this thing will be around forever. It could go out of print at some point, but I think it's a great Blu-ray. I think it looks and sounds great. I was very impressed with it, and I'm just happy to have Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 on Blu-ray. So I love both these movies. I cherish these movies. I love watching them around this time of the year. It's kind of the perfect time to watch them. Again, two totally different movies, but they're both fantastic in my opinion, and I love them both so much. So much. And then we have Blair Witch 3, which I like this movie. I loved it in theaters, but I don't love it now. I tried rewatching it the other night, and I found myself a little bored with the movie. I love the director, Adam Wingard. I think he's awesome. The Guest and You're Next and Godzilla vs. Kong. I love all those. Especially, well, Godzilla vs. Kong I don't love, but I think it's very entertaining, and I really enjoy that movie. But The Guest and You're Next, his two movies before this, are fantastic, and maybe I'll talk about those throughout this month. But Blair Witch was fine. It was a good movie. Rewatching it, it was a fine and good movie. Again, I found myself a little bored sometimes, but seeing it in theaters was a great theater experience because the sound of the movie and the water and the dripping and the crackling and the noises were all kind of around the theater when we were watching it, and that was pretty awesome. I own it for the collection. I don't know how many times I'd go back and rewatch this one, to be quite honest. It doesn't hold up as well today like it did in theaters. But for what they did, it was fine. And I'm glad, we just had another Blair Witch movie come out because this is an underrated franchise. And I know there's rumors of a fourth Blair Witch movie, so I'd be curious to see where that one goes. I think what makes this movie kind of fall down compared to the first two movies is that, it is that found footage movie, which is very popular today, but it doesn't grab me like the first movie does. Like when the first movie came out, that was a really special and unique thing to make a found footage movie. And because this is found footage, it's a lot more mainstream now. And also the story is fine. It's not one of my favorites. I think the third act is pretty great though. I do like the third act. But yeah, it's a good film. It's good for what it is. But for me, the first two movies are where it's at. I want to go through, my collection of Blair Witch Project, which I don't have a lot of stuff, and sadly, there's not a lot of things around. One of my favorite things, and I'll try to leave pictures somewhere over here, was meeting two of the cast members at Days of the Dead Chicago. I think this was 2015. And I met Heather, who was super sweet. I have a memory of losing my phone for a second at the convention, and I was in Chicago, and I was away from home, and I didn't memorize any of the numbers in my phone. Like, it's really hard today, like, to memorize numbers because they're just, like, in our phone. And I was like, I don't have my phone with me. What am I going to do? So my friend Brian called my phone, and somebody picked up the phone, and it was Heather, and I had left the phone at the table, I guess when I was taking a picture with her, and she had the phone, and I just thought that was neat. So we went back and I picked it up, and so that was cool. That's a really fun memory with Heather, but super sweet, loved her. And then I met Mike. I kicked the map in the river, Mike. And he was an awesome guy, like super sweet guy. I can't remember what anniversary this was, or I think this was one of their first appearances at a convention. And so I have a theatrical poster. I don't have it up right now. It's rolled up, but I have a signed poster with Heather and Mike. And one day I'd like to meet Josh. I think that would be great, but he wasn't at that convention. So that was neat. So again, I'll try to leave these pictures up here. If not, in the thumbnail, you'll see a picture of them. So I'll try to get those up. And then I want to show off just some stuff that I do own Blair Witch wise. My amazing friends and two people I consider family, Brian and Heather, another Heather, got this for me for Christmas one year, and this was a kind of custom stick figure that they got off of a website somewhere, and they got it for me for Christmas. I love it. It's just really cool, and it adds that like quality to it. So I have that. I think it's awesome. And then the last things I'll show, very simple stuff, but so I have a factory sealed copy of Blair Witch Project on VHS. I keep this one factory sealed, and this was a Blockbuster video rental. This is not the same one, obviously, but I found this on eBay one year and I picked it up. And then last year, a friend of mine was getting rid of some VHS tapes, so the Blair Witch Project 1, or the Blair Witch Project used. I have yet to watch this VHS tape. I think one year I'm going to just pop these on because I do have a VHS player that works. And then Blair Witch Project 2 or Book of Shadows Blair Witch Project. So that's really neat. And the last thing I got from a buddy of mine, Resident Vania, this really cool Blair Witch experience. So this is when the second movie had come out, and so you got Blair Witch 1 and 2 on DVD, and a CD-ROM. Again, CD-ROM's not around anymore, so this thing is 20 plus years old. So it's been around a long time, but I have that as well. So that is my Blair Witch Project collection of stuff that I own. Again, I have a signed poster that's rolled up right now, but I think I'll eventually put it back up in the movie room. I always switch the posters around. But I really just wanted to talk about these two movies right here. I love both these movies so much, and I think this October season, if you're trying to find recommendations or rewatches, and maybe you've only seen these movies once, give them a rewatch, and maybe you've never seen them. Go ahead and watch them. Give your opinion on them, see what you think. You might not love them like I do, but these reviews are just really for me to review some of my favorite movies, talk about them, and maybe you'll watch them. So maybe we'll do a thumbnail somehow here. I kind of like this pose. But yeah, I love both these movies so much. They're fan favorites of mine, and I'll always love them for their different reasons. I think they're both unique and they both stand out, and especially, you know, when we're talking Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, it didn't try to redo what the first one did. It did something different, and of course I have a huge appreciation for that. Even though it's not the director's vision, I love that movie. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. As always, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. In with positive, out with the negative. Go eat some Skittles. And remember to always be yourself, because you are amazing and you are beautiful. And I'll talk to y'all later.